Good evening. This is Gloria Taylor Brown, and this is a gathering of priestesses. This is number 59, and we have with us tonight the lovely Adey Bell. She has told us her name is Adey, as in 88, and she'll tell us more about 88 later. And we also have our co-host, Miss Catherine Ravenwood. Thank you for being with us once more. We always appreciate your appearance. And so we're delighted I checked today, and we've picked up 3 or 4 more countries that are watching us. So if you're watching us from Thailand, from India, or from Japan, thank you very much. And if you're watching us from anywhere else in the world, we appreciate it as well. It's great to know that we're spreading the word all over the world about how we can be priestesses and serve the divine and be the representatives here on earth of the divine. So I'd like to introduce you to Miss Adey Bell, who is the star of The Last Avatar, who is a singer, composer, writer, artist. Is that your art behind you?
That is the art behind me.
Actress, wow, we could just go on, but Adey, so Casey says, Adey, she's totally thrilled that you're here, so are a number of other people. And we would want to welcome you to a gathering of priestesses. Sharon Rose spoke very, very highly of you and said that you were among the younger group of priestesses that are coming into their power, and as you do, you are really carving a new niche for yourself. And so we'll start with the question that we always start with, and just so everybody knows, we don't care what the answer is, we just care that if she has an answer that she gives it to us. So what started you on the path of the priestess?
Really, the path of the priestess came to me in a few different avenues. As a touring musician and pianist, composer, one-woman show, I knew that I feel the best when I play music and share it with people. So I quit my job, I left everything, and I packed my van, and I just started touring and playing mostly house concerts. And through this journey, I had my listeners and my fans would come up to me and basically have these amazing testimonials of the experiences they were having when engaging with my music. And I listen to them and I sit with them, and it's profound, and it would blow my mind every time. I mean, people were like crying and having experiences of, you know, revisiting their own grief and sorrow and releasing pain, and I was just blown away every time, blown away. And so really it's my listeners and my fans that started coming up to me and telling me, Adey, you're an oracle, is what they call me. You're an oracle. And I was like, you know, at first I was a little taken back, like, wow, that's kind of a big responsibility. To be called an oracle felt really, you know, honorable and kind of intense. But I rolled with it. And about the same time that this was all unfolding, that's when I met Sharon Rose, who is the producer and actually the author of the book, The Path to the Priestess. She and I met, and she and I immediately, you know, connected really well, and she hired me to be the star in her husband's film, The Last Avatar. So my character in The Last Avatar her name is Mary, and she is the high priestess of the headwaters of Mount Shasta, who has been initiated in the dream school to help find this avatar. His name is Kalki, because he's come to bring about the destruction of the ignorance and the illusion in the world. So this role really spoke to me, and it was the first time that I was literally on film being portrayed as a priestess. So Sharon and I, you know, she doesn't do anything, you know, she doesn't do anything light. It's not like her movie is just some surface film. It's really deep. She and her husband Jay Widener there's a bunch of real themes about the Hindu legend of Kalki, the destroyer, coming to Earth, and it's a very metaphysical, spiritual film. And through working with her, she sort of initiated me and brought me into her personal lineages of all of her Egyptian hermetic knowledge, and she started teaching me just from her own experience of what it means to be a priestess. And at the same time, to bring the third river in, I was, let's see, I went to the Well Springs, which is it's the hot springs here in Ashland, and I was going to soak, and I was having, you know, taking myself on a date, and I walked into the community room, and there was this beautiful woman in there, and she opened the door, and she looked at me, she said, "Come in, you know, we've been waiting for you." And I was like, "What do you mean you've been waiting for me?" And turns out her name is Graelle, and she was in the beginning stages of bringing the 19 seed priestesses of the goddess temple of Ashland together, and I was the 19th.
Ah.
So all of these things sort of converged at the same time and swam around and mixed and filled my heart, and it took me a while. It took me a few years to really integrate that my music was not only my own personal healing space, but it's healing space for others as well, which you can call it being a priestess, you can call it being a conduit, you could call it being, you know, clairvoyant or any of these words, but it seems to bring people closer to their source of power.
Well, I was watching Good Morning America, or one of those shows, I'm not sure which one it was, in the last couple of days, and they were talking about how a song gets caught in your head. And they said the reason it does is because of the shape of your brain. It actually sets up reverberations in your brain. And it sort of depends on the shape of your brain which song gets stuck there.
Interesting.
And that music, the point they were making is, I mean, you know this, I know this. The point was we feel music as well as hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like our body has a sensation of the music when it is played near us, and the point they were talking about how when you are in the presence of really loud music, like at a huge rock studio, your brain shrinks as though it's trying to get away from the noise.
Wow. That's not surprising at all. That's why you bring earplugs.
Yeah, because it's overwhelming. The brain can't handle it. Yeah. But so I'm not surprised that, you know, you're touching that emotional font inside of people with your music. But it was just I found it interesting to think that, okay, this is not just a auditory thing. This is also a physiological thing where we are experiencing the music on a ongoing basis. And so you know, as you have come from apparently a long tradition in either in your family or in yourself of learning music. When did you get started?
Oh, I was so very blessed this life, because I am the daughter of 2 musicians. Both of my parents are concert organists and choir masters and played in the church. So I was I was raised in the sacred house of music. And very fortunate because they had very vast, eclectic taste in music. So I always knew, I just had a magnetic attraction to the piano. We always had at least one piano in our house growing up. And as far back as I can remember, I can just remember coming down the stairs and just making a beeline for the piano and just getting my hands and just playing the keys. And as soon as I could sit up there and just, you know, work out some melodies, that's what I was up to. I was classically trained. My father especially, was really excited about me, you know, going to conservatory for music and all this. And so I was trained, but I think around like 12 or 13, I sort of lost interest in sort of regurgitating other people's music. And I was really interested in making my own. So I started writing my own pieces around that time. But I kept it very private because it's always been a very personal experience for me. And I also had some weird social conditioning story that feminine music, the music from a woman, wasn't very important and it wasn't very popular. Just from looking at like the rock bands and the DJs and stuff that was going on, it was like the Beatles was one of the first like pop music that my parents introduced me to, and it seemed like you weren't a real band unless you were 4 guys, you know, on a guitar and a bass and drums, and so I didn't really think that what I was doing was very relevant to anyone else but myself. So I kept it very close for a long time, even into my like early 20s. A lot of my friends in high school didn't even know that I played the piano until later.
Wow, wow. Well, you know, I couldn't help thinking, you know, Taylor Swift, when she was 12 years old, was driving around Nashville handing out tapes of her music. And
Right.
if you had done that, you know, maybe it would be Adey Bell, not Taylor Swift at the top of the heap.
Well, I think actually taking my time was a great it was a great thing for me. It was actually it was a tool in my tool belt.
Mm-hmm.
Crafting my own music specifically for the sake of making art and healing my own soul is what sort of gave me the foundation and the chops to be able to do what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And even just for the last few years, I mean, Gloria, I haven't really even been playing out for that long. It's only been, I mean, I've been touring and playing for the better part of 5-6 years, but only seriously, meaning I have a website now, for like the past 3. And to have that kind of business brain, to understand what it is to create music that's marketed, you know, what's popular, getting into sort of like the marketing brain is it's like a big jump from the other side of it, for me personally, which is getting out of the way and letting the channel embody me so that I can create music from that space. So I think that if I had concentrated on that stuff at that time, my music would be vastly different, and it's kind of also distracting, and it takes a certain kind of capacity to be able to do both really well. And that's what I'm learning now. That's the tools that I'm sharpening in my tool belt right now is how to understand what kind of music I give, who are my listeners, and how to give it to them, and especially in these tumultuous musical times where we don't have the channels that we used to have. You know, we don't have the system that we used to have as far as record labels and distribution and everyone listening to the radio. It's much different now. So I'm really grateful that I got to take my time with it, because it sort of made me who I am, and it certainly kept the music in the most core integrity.
Well, I want you to understand, I'm not in any way criticizing. I think you did absolutely the right thing. It's just that it is an example of 2 very different ways of approaching something, and both of them are right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, her way was right for her, your way is right for you. And that's one of the things we have to remember as priestesses, is that everybody's path is not the same. We do not, we do not all come to the divine, to the goddess, to whatever we worship along the same path. You know, your comment about 3 rivers coming together. Sometimes it's 3 rivers, sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 10. You know, there's a whole lot of different things that happen along the way. I mean, Raven started with the Mormon Church many, 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 many years ago. And I started with the Baptist Church. I got kicked out, by the way, I got kicked out of the Baptist choir.
You got kicked
So
out
I'm
of the...
not allowed to sing online, on screen or anywhere else.
Good job. Good job.
And so, you know, I have this tremendous respect and awe of people who are musically gifted because I have none. I'm, you know, I know what I like, and generally it's, you know, it's not very highbrow, frankly.
I've known you for, what, 16 years?
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard you sing.
What? No, you wouldn't.
It's where everybody's singing, but you don't.
No, there's a reason for that.
I've never heard you sing.
There's a reason for that. I cannot find a tune if you gave me the bucket and said it was in there. So we have to go with the talents that we are given. Whenever I was working with a voice coach in New York many, many, many years ago, he taught me, he says, you know, he says, your voice is a tool, and you can use that tool in any way you want. And he said, for people who have the natural talent for singing, they start singing when they're in the crib. He says that's what they want to do more than anything else. He says, can you ever remember singing? I said, well, I remember joining the Baptist choir and getting kicked out because I was too loud. And he's like, you know what? Singing is probably not what you want to do with your voice. I said, no, it's not. What I want to do is communicate ideas. And he says, well, you can do that with music. But so I had to look at, you know, could I train myself to do music? Yes, at a mediocre level, I could probably train myself. But I did not have that base talent that would allow me to be someone who was at least very good. And anything that I can't be very good at, I don't want to do. You know, it's just, and obviously, you know, you had not only, like I said, you had the genetic back predisposition from your parents, but you also had from early on. I mean, my parents' idea of good music was, what was that thing you used to buy from Time Life? That, you know, the 50 songs, 50 greatest concerts or something like that they bought for $9.95. That was their idea of good music.
Right.
Or Buddy Holly, or, you know, something they could dance to. They, you know, the idea of serious music was not in their ballpark. So I'm just, you know, saying I'm just really in awe of someone that's being able to follow her path as well as you have. And I find it interesting that you have come to this place where you are the oracle and the priestess. And I'd like to hear more about that.
Well, like I said before, I really resisted it. Being called an oracle was incredibly uncomfortable for me for a couple of reasons. I think one of them is that being raised in the church, I was inundated with spirituality, you know. My father was a Christian Scientist. He raised us Christian Scientists until I was 15. I was a member of the Mother Church. And then he decided to be a Roman Catholic, and so...
Oh, that's quite a switch.
Yeah. He's kind of extreme. He's sort of on each end of the spectrum. So I kind of I didn't really resonate with that when he decided to be Catholic, and it was very confusing for me. And the point is that I'd had a lot of spirituality, and I had a lot of teachings of God, and I had a lot of that sort of inundation of dogmatic religion, and then a lot of sacred music, like what I consider sacred music. wasn't really being played in like the modern church. You know, the modern church sort of takes a lot of these like beautiful tunes and kind of modernizes them and calls them spiritual. And I wasn't really into that. So the idea of being an oracle or creating spiritual music repelled me at first because I never wanted to be lumped in the category of spiritual music. I was like, oh no, if people think I'm spiritual, then it's gonna narrow my field down. It's gonna narrow my audience to a point where people won't be as open to it, because a lot of people, if you say, oh, we're gonna, you know, go to this spiritual thing, you know, some people, unless they're into that, they're just kind of like, ugh, no, I don't need your spirituality. I don't need you to tell you what. I don't need you to tell me what to believe, and it sort of puts a lot of people off. So I was very aware of that in the beginning, because I wanted to be. I always want to be applicable to everyone. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to my music, depending on where you listen, you know, am I at a jazz club in San Francisco? Am I at a house party in your house? Am I in a festival, you know, in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night in California? All of these contextual sort of containers will give you a different experience of what I do. So a lot of people will get a spiritual experience, but some people might not experience it as such. So mm-hmm. I really wanted to keep myself open so that I wouldn't narrow it down. But so I refused it outright. I was just like, no, I could be your oracle, but don't ever call me that, you know? You can call me that personally, but I don't want to have that anywhere near. And then I kept going, and I kept playing, and I kept having the experience that I continually have after every concert and in the concert, and this sense of being able to sort of take the pulse of the conscious field of the audience and myself and weave it into melodic storytelling with music is just what I do. And the more I got real about that, the more I really owned it and just realized that that was what was happening, I actually saw myself as an oracle, as a modern muse, or you know, as a channel in that way. And so I just started slowly letting it in and letting it be what it is. And I think that part of the resistance came from this place of, like I spoke of before, almost like a social conditioning about music and about our experience of music and going out to see a show versus having a religious, like a spiritual experience of music. And I started realizing that part of my gift and part of what I bring is an alternative to, you know, going out to the show and buying the ticket and getting in the mosh pit and, you know, that whole thing. I don't give that. I'm not that. And the resistance came from really understanding that there is another kind of musical experience that we can co-create together that is feminine and softer but fierce and personal and multidimensional. And when I started really opening up to the ideas that people actually wanted it, they came to me and they wanted it. They wanted to drink from the pool of self-reflection through me. And when I got that, I was like, okay, great. Call me what you want to call me, you know, be an oracle, be a priestess, whatever. I'm just going to keep doing this, and I'm going to keep showing up, and I'm going to keep creating an experience of music that is unlike anything else you can experience on the planet. And that is my goal. That is the highest. That's the highest calling.
Well, one of the things that I did for our viewers and our registrants is I put a piece of music up on the registration page so that they could hear you before they came into the room or before they came into the event. And I had several people get in touch with me, and they just loved the music. They were just blown away. It's like, oh my God, she's so beautiful, and the music is so incredible. And why haven't I heard about her before? One person says, why haven't I heard about her before? Well, you know, 3 to 5 years. Takes a while. You know, overnight success, we figure, takes between 10 and 20 years. So, so Raven is Raven is a songwriter and singer. So yes, well, yes, you are. Yes, you are. You know what? Yes, you are.
I sing, and I wrote a song, but it was a channeled song. So no, I'm not a songwriter, and I am a moderately capable singer. You're being way too kind to me. Now, don't put me there. You're making me feel bad. No. I enjoy singing, but I'm not a singer, or I'm not a singer-songwriter. No, I'm not.
Yeah. Well, we'll let her have her beliefs as well. So
I love to sing, but that's different than being a singer.
So what I was doing was I was setting it up that I wanted to let you ask Adey some questions, which I thought you might have more insight into her work than I do, since you're so much more musical. Trust me, you are more musical than I am.
Okay, we'll go with that. Okay, so I have not heard your music yet. Unfortunately, I have not played that. So I think my question would be, how did you know that it was your music? Did it come to you? Did you dream it? Did you just start singing it? I mean, you kept it private all this time. How did your music come to you?
That's a good question. The best way I think I can answer that is that, let's see, I get out of the way. And what I mean by that is I create sort of a bubble of non-negotiable times, what I like to call it, where I don't have any distractions, I have a door closed, I'm completely alone. That's key number one. It's not as pertinent now that I'm older, but it was certainly when I was younger. I needed to have my own bubble. I needed to have permission to follow my curiosity no matter where it took me. And being raised in a house of musicians, it was really hard to find that space because someone's always out there listening, you know. But finding my zone, getting in my space, and then being able to listen really deeply to what wants to come through. Sometimes it comes out as a melody that I sing first. Sometimes it comes from like a lyric from my journal. But most often, it actually comes from my passionate love affair with the piano. The piano's my girl. She's my wife. She is what I'm consecrated to in this lifetime. And I find her to be such a never-ending well of inspiration. And I listen to a lot of piano music, and she pulls melodies sort of out of me, or maybe I pull them out of her. Sometimes it's a two-way street, but it always starts there.
When I was little, like 5, I would go up into the upstairs bedroom, and that was back in the days when the records were made of shellac, the big 78 shellacks. And I would sit up there, 5 years old, shut the door, and play Rachmaninoff, Debussy, Tchaikovsky, you know, and I would sit up there for hours and listen to that music. I was 5. Now, in that sense, I'm what probably many musicians love, which is the audience. But I have a great ear for music, and I totally like. My favorite music is Italian Baroque. I love that so much, and yet I never had the ability to play the piano. I tried, and my timing is non-existent. My hands always got crossed over, even though I can do 13 keys with my hand, but I can't manage it. So in that sense, I can understand your affair with the piano, because for me, listening to people who had that ability was phenomenal to me. And I would sit for hours and listen to that and just have stories in my mind about it. So I just think that's wonderful you were able to like access that, and to have, how, you know, obviously you were born where you needed to be, where you could sneak downstairs and get up on the keys, as you said. I love that image. I have a great niece who sits at the piano and writes her own music. And I watch her do it, and it's just amazing. And she'll sit there for a while and do it, and she can remember all the music she hears, and it's such a gift. So it's wonderful for you that you were encouraged to do that. So I guess my next question would be, once you decided to let people know that this is something you did, you said your friends in high school didn't even know you played. How did you kind of come out?
Well, like everything in my path, it always comes to me. I never seek it out. It always comes to me. But I was 18. I had dropped out of high school and gotten my GED and started going to beauty college to become my own entrepreneur self. And I was working in a shop, doing hair, having fun, learning a lot of skills. And one of the things that I would always sing to the songs that were on the playing at the salon, and so I'd be like singing harmonies and cutting hair, and one of my coworkers' clients, she heard me sing, and she was like, "Oh, you have such an amazing voice. You must meet my daughter. My daughter has an amazing voice. She plays the guitar. You two are gonna love each other. I'm gonna hook you up." And so her daughter comes and plays some of her amazing, beautiful original songs on guitar. And so we were like, well, you know, why don't you come over and you play a couple songs for me and I'll play a couple songs. We're both really shy, which is awesome. We're both kind of shy, and she played a couple of her original tunes, and then I'd play a couple of my tunes. She came over to my house later that night, and we just had a real resonance. We had a very similar aesthetic. We had a very similar sound. And we sang harmonies on each other's music, and it was like angels in the room. It was amazing, our voices together. And so she had this great idea. She was like, well, we should make a band. Should make a band and hit the road. And I was terrified of this. She's a couple of years older than me. But, you know, she just gave me this courage because she heard my music and she loved what I did. And she was sort of the fire starter, you could say. And we quickly banded together and were inseparable, you know, and we were planning this tour together, and we were playing in coffee shops and restaurants, and, you know, like had our little band fund, our little jar of tip, you know, our tip jar, and we just started making it happen. And so she sort of brought me out into the world, and our relationship didn't end up staying that way, unfortunately. But she sort of brought me out. And then when she left my life, which was only about a year and a half later, I was kind of left with this feeling like, well, I could just go back to doing hair, you know, and I could just sit down and do the thing. But I had already got the bug.
Yeah.
I'd already got the bug. And then I was like, wait a minute. There's something else here for me. There's something bigger. There's something better. And then the real, like the second push, the second flame that came in after her was I developed tendinitis in my elbows from doing hair full time and from playing music all the time. And I was in such crippling pain, and I heard the voice so clearly. It was like, well, what do you really want to do? What do you really want? Do you want to be a hairdresser for the rest of your life, or do you want to play music? What do you want? And at that time, I was still completely entranced in this crazy dream that musicians never make any money, just like my parents. If you decide to be a musician, you're going to be poor. You're going to live this, you know, struggle, this life of struggle and strain. And, you know, you're going to be rich in your heart, but you're going to be, you know, scrapping to get by. And I didn't want to go there because I saw my parents go there. But I went there.
Good.
I went there, and now I am a absolutely successful full-time artist. And I actually do other things in my world of artistry other than just play music for money. So I do sing for my supper, but I have other avenues that I get to show up as the Renaissance woman and piece them all together and make it work.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Ah, thank you.
Good for you. Thank you for having the courage to do that. Yeah. A lot of people do not.
I noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people kind of have this sort of jaded, you know, I've worked a long time to dissolve the illusion that being an artist means not being financially secure. And it's a very prevalent illusion, and it's reinforced by our modern culture and by even artists, you know. And the starving artist, but it's dissolving rapidly, and so many artists are also healers, and I think there's a wave coming of not only artists and healers themselves waking up to their own true value, but people in our culture and people in our society who are understanding that the art and the music of our culture is what heals us, is what feeds us. And we can't separate them.
That is the thing that so many people of power try to block.
Right.
Can't have that in our schools anymore. Can't have. Can't have that in schools. That's not valid. You have to learn other things, and other subjects are valid, but at the expense of sacrificing art. And you know, there's a lot of bad art. There's a lot of bad music, I guess, and it's all in your taste. But it's too bad, because I agree with you. I think there's, well, yeah, I felt that way since I was a little girl. I adore music. I can't read if music is on, because I'm so music driven that I cannot even read a book if music is on. But I can't. Those are my two passions, and I can't separate them. I have to do one or the other. So I can't imagine a world without music.
Well, and you don't have to, because it'll never exist. And here's why. So anything that is not truth will fall away. And them taking the arts and music programs out of school, I really feel like it's just a last-ditch effort to like really drive home this droid mentality, but it's not lasting and it's not true, and people know this. It's like we are here to create art and we're here to create music, and it's always going to be there. And the more people start waking up to that, the more people won't allow that to happen in the schools. Oh, you can't have, you know, my child can't play the violin in school anymore. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my child out of this school and put them back into a reality where music can flow in my life again. And so when people are kind of focusing on the constraints of the government or the, you know, the dogmas of this, you know, culture that's very logic and math and business oriented, I just remind everyone to let's water the flowers that we want to see growing. And know that you can never take music out of the human soul. That's our right, as our birthright as human beings. So rest in that. Rest in that.
Yes, and you know, I love that bumper sticker that has the word Earth, and the E and the H are little, and the ART is big in the middle. So Earth is made of art. I love that bumper sticker.
Me too.
And the other thing is that Brooke Medicine Eagle, who's one of our friends and teachers.
I love her.
Oh, love her. Well, we were in one of her workshops one time, and we were all singing together. And she said, you know, my elders always taught me that if you don't know anything else to do, you are in a crisis. You don't know anything else to do. You don't know how to handle the problem. Just start singing in harmony.
Wow.
I've never forgotten that. And I'm a harmony singer. I'm not going to ever be the lead singer, but oh boy, can I sing harmony. And
harmony
I love that.
is necessary. Yeah, we need that.
Yeah, so you know, you can sing harmony with just about anything. And somebody said, well, what if you're by yourself? Well, turn on the radio, you know, or just sing something. Sing a
right. You know what I do sometimes is I harmonize with the lawnmower.
Ah.
The lawnmower drives me crazy, right? And the weed whackers and all that like noisy, you know, circular saw stuff. If I let it get to me, I just want to start murdering people.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I diffuse that charge is through harmonizing with it.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Into a song. Yeah, it's a fun tool. It's a fun tool.
We don't have any weed whackers, but could you give us an example?
Well, I don't have any weed whackers happening right now either. You know those electric toothbrushes? Those are fun to harmonize with as well. I don't have anything that's making noise right now, but you know how like in the Indian scales in the classical Indian music, they what they call raga, they have a drone. They have a note, like a hey, that's always going, and then that note's always going, and then on top of it, they have all the luscious harmonies, and you sort of like go on top of it like hey, you know, and you can like kind of play with it and like keep the drone there and then go on top of it. Get Egyptian on it, you know, get whatever scale.
I love that. It's fabulous.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Making it work, you know, making it work as a modern priestess because there's so many things that feel incongruous from my natural soul, like chainsaws. And if I let it get me down, which I gotta say that I think that's one of my bigger challenges is dealing with, and it might sound really trite to someone, but is the way that we handle landscaping. It drives me insane. It drives me insane, you know. It feels like, instead of that leaf blower, we could be hearing the gentle shh, shh, shh of a broom. And I get that it's more, you know, more labor to push a broom than it is to just take your you know, blower and just go.
Oh, I don't know. Where I work, the landscapers come in on Friday, and they go back and forth over the same area at least 3 times with those blowers.
Right.
And I had to tell them, you're blowing all that under the doors, and then I have to go with the broom and clean up after you, so you have to stop doing that.
Right.
I see them, they're done, then they come back and they clean up where the backflow. It's crazy. But you know, that's such when dissonance like that is put upon us, we don't want it.
Right.
And so even the people doing it have earplugs in.
Well,
so
right.
It's not bothering them so much. But for the rest of us, it's such an invasion, that horrible sound. It's a space invasion, and I think all of us want that harmony. We'd much rather hear something pleasant. And so that's great. Harmonize with that. I love that.
Harmonize with it. Harmonize with the vacuum cleaner. It goes back to what Gloria was saying earlier about how we actually somatically feel music. I mean, if you think about it, we live in a vibrational universe. And we are vibrations. So any vibration coming in or going out, it's either, you know, in resonance or it's creating dissonance. And those kinds of sounds, I mean, we could get into the physics of it and actually pick it apart as to why it is so dissonant to the other rhythms going on, but it actually affects you, and whether you're aware of the subtle energy or not, it's creating a sort of, what do they call when the 2 waves come together? I can't remember right now, but it's creating a dissonant effect, and you can feel it in your body. So harmonizing with it is one way to just sort of like shift it a little bit. And I like to just try to have a sense of humor about it because I can get pretty upset about it, and I try to find humor so that it doesn't really send me down the path of, you know, being grouchy.
Well, I find that interesting. We used to have a 26-foot sailboat that had a 10 horsepower engine on the back of it.
Right.
And of course we preferred to go sailing, but sometimes you just can't, particularly whenever you're in Puget Sound and you want to go somewhere, so you have to start the engine. And what I always thought was that it sounded to me like the motor was either words or it was singing. And it was and of course that was a sound I definitely wanted to hear continue, because that meant that the engine was continuing. So you know, when you're on a boat, the engine stopping is like, you know, that's okay if you did it on purpose, but if you didn't do it on purpose, that's a particular song that you want to keep hearing. And I used to think that I could hear the song in the motors, so I never thought I thought I was just crazy. but then I am, so what can I say?
The best are.
So before we get too much further along, I would love to, I think you were either going to play some of your music for us or sing some of your music for us. What did we decide on? Or did I get that wrong?
No, you didn't get it wrong. I was actually looking at some videos and some newer stuff, but it hasn't been edited yet. And then I didn't quite get the video. I have another video that isn't musical that would fit perfectly into our conversation, but I'm also happy to sing for you just live.
Sing for us live.
Oh, that would be wonderful, please.
Okay, so Raven, you're going to love this because this song was straight up channeled from the Redwood Grove in Northern California.
Oh. Yes, my favorite.
Yeah, and a lot of my pieces, you know, are channeled or I get out of the way and create music, but they're definitely distinctly my own flavor, especially with the accompaniment of the piano. But this song was, it doesn't really go into the flavor of like a lot of my other compositions and a lot of my other pieces because it really was given to me on the spot in the Redwood Grove in the Armstrong redwood trees up there in Guerneville. And I was taking a walk by myself. It's one of my favorite things to do is walk in the forest by myself. And I always take my shoes off and I'm barefoot and I'm walking on the path. And there's no one around, and the redwoods are such a cathedral. You know, they have such a majestic energy. They're so tall and vast and huge. And here's what they gave me. Hello, great mother. Bring my consciousness to my heart. Fill me over, keep me open. In your eyes I find myself. Hello, Mama Luna, light the path that lay beyond me, fierce as daylight cycled through me. I will never fear the night. Hello, big sister. You have gone where I am going. Help keep me to my intention. In your beauty I see all. Hello, great mother. Bring my consciousness to my heart. Fill me over, keep me open. In your eyes I find myself. In your eyes I find myself.
Wow. Fabulous.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. really fabulous. You are really brilliant and incredible and beautiful and wonderful, and we hope you will be on many more times and you can come on and sing for us and do a concert for us.
That would be good. Yeah, and next time I can prepare so I can play the piano and we can have that all digitally put together, and I would love to come join you anytime. You girls are my kind of girls.
That's all right.
We be sisters.
We be sisters. And that song is on deck being recorded. I have a couple different recordings coming out at the end of the year, but one of them is sort of like an ambient, more instrumental, sort of devotional, you might say. It's really more for meditation and contemplation rather than some of the other things that you might already be into of what I'm up to. So you can listen to all of the recordings and my records that I have right now at my website, oracle88.com. And everything's free. I give away my music now. So if you feel called to donate, I'm always willing to take donations, but I want to make my music available to anyone in the world, anyone and everyone in the world. So sign up on the mailing list, and then you know about all the updates and where I'm playing in the world and releases and more information about the movie that I'm starring in and wrote the score for. So don't be shy. Get on board, because there's so much more.
Well, thank you. You've given us a great deal today. We really appreciate your being here, and we appreciate you providing us with this beautiful music. We want to be able to give people the address for, so it's, what's the address? Oracle88.com.
Oh, I thought that's the one that I wanted. Is it on my little thing there?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
Okay.
There's
videos,
videos, albums, tour schedule, all that fun stuff.
Okay, I just put the list out there. Everybody is saying, bravo, Adey, you're brilliant. Devastacious, lovely. Everybody loved it. So I think you'll get a lot of good comments from this. And, of course, this video will be on YouTube in about 15 minutes. So I'll send you the link to it, and you can put it on your website as well. And I want to thank you for being on.
Thank you
Raven,
so much.
thank you so much for being on as well.
My joy.
Yes. Any of you who need your tarot cards read, Raven is the best tarot consultant in the world, and so you have to call her. And how can they get in touch with you, Raven?
My website is www.Kathryn, which is Kathryn, ravenwood.com, and there will be links there to classes, my online classes that I'm teaching as well, and how to get in touch with me, and some interviews I have done, so love to hear from you.
Okay. Adey, Patrice would like to know, do you have a Facebook page for your music?
I do. If you go to Facebook and you look up Adey, A-D-E-Y, go ahead and like me there. You can also go to the website, oracle88.com, and at the very top of the website will be all of my social media follows right up there on top. And I have a YouTube page, and you can watch all the videos and all that fun stuff.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on, and thanks, Sharon, for suggesting you. I really appreciate it. You know, one of the places where we get our priestesses is from other priestesses suggesting that, hey, there's this really great, cool person that you should have on. So if
I got a bunch of you.
If you've got an idea of somebody that we should interview, or if you think that you should be interviewed, please get in touch with us. We do have the group, which is a gathering of priestesses, on Facebook. It's open to everybody. You do have to ask to join, and I do check you out, and then I put you in there. So far, I've only refused one person out of over 500, so you've got a pretty good chance of getting in. And let's see, upcoming we have another incredible woman on Saturday. Now, this is a special edition. This is at 11 o'clock Pacific time on Saturday. We will have Abby Spinner McBride on. And Abby is so multi-talented, it takes a half of a page to fill out all the things she does. But she is a magician, a musician, an actress, a singer. She is one of the co-founders of the Vegas Vortex, which is a quite incredible organization. If you've never had any experience with them, they go out and play with fire in the middle of the desert and also have events that go on around the year. Abby is beautiful. She's truly remarkable, her skill. And she happens to be married to a major magician who teaches other people how to be a magician named Jeff McBride. But we're going to keep that one on the down low and talk mainly about Abby.
And she's just
so wonderful.
She's so nice. She's so kind. She's so, you just wouldn't even know all these things she does.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's very hard to get her whole bio because she kept sending me a bio that was more about her husband than it was about her. So I said, no, it's got to be about you. And so I got one, and I hope you'll join us. One of the things that we now have on a Gathering of Priestesses is if you like this show and you want to be registered for every show and you don't want to have to go through registering, you can just click, there's a little button when you register that says auto-register me for all of Gloria's webinars, and then you'll just get notices for all the webinars as we go along. And you know, if you don't want to be there, you can always unsubscribe, or you can always just not show up, like, you know. But do let your friends know that this is available online and on YouTube, and we will be back next week. Next week, I'm not sure who we're going to have on. Miss Christy Michaels was supposed to be on, but due to the fact she's doing the Magdalene Fest on that following weekend, she's just feeling too overwhelmed with everything else she's got going on, so we're sort of doing some shuffling here as to who's going to be on there. What I can promise you this, it will be somebody remarkable and entertaining and wonderful, because all the people we have on here are remarkable, entertaining, and wonderful. So thank you once more, Adey. I really appreciate your being here.
Mm-hmm. It was a joy, Adey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raven. I had a wonderful time.
Yeah, and thank you, Raven. I so much appreciate your being here. And thank you who are listening to us. We really appreciate you being here. Your being here live makes this more real for us. You know, I know, it's probably inconvenient for at least half of you that are listening. It's not all that convenient for us that are creating the thing. But we try to put it at a time where it will be most effective for both East Coast and West Coast, and hope that the middle of the country will fall in. But we just want to have you follow through with letting people know about this. We've got, this is, like I said, our 59th, actually it's our 60th if we include the special edition with Kathy Jones. And so there's quite a bit of video there. You don't have to watch it all at one time, but I guarantee you this, if you're interested in any way of being a priestess, of being servant of the divine, you will love what you hear here. And so we thank you for listening to us and being with us. And we ask you to return next week, or next Saturday, for our special edition, and next week on Tuesday evening. And that's our show for this evening. Thank you very much, and good night.